Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to episode 57 of the Leading IT podcast, hosted by Tom Layden, CIO at Longview, and me, Josh Rubens, CEO at Empyrean. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back again. The purpose of our show is for IT leaders to discover unique and valuable insights into current trends from both sides of the vendor-client paradigm. And we like to tackle relevant and time-sensitive topics like cloud, AI, cybersecurity, infrastructure, strategy and leadership, and how to deal with emerging IT threats and opportunities. And on today's show, we're welcoming back Mary-Beth Hosking, the CEO at Vic ICT for Women, and we're going to talk about her new book, which is Not Another Digital Transformation, the 10X Generation. So welcome, Mary-Beth, and g'day, Tom.
G'day, Josh. Welcome, Mary-Beth. Looking forward to hearing about your book.
Yes.
But before we get into it, let's talk about a quick couple of news items, Josh.
Yes. Do you want to go first?
I will. Yeah, definitely. The first big news item for me is Elon Musk and his brain chips. Did you hear about this? So I think it was yesterday, the day before, he successfully inserted a brain chip into someone's brain.
Quadriplegic.
Thank you. Who was able to then move a mouse on a computer and spent the whole time, demonstrating its capabilities by playing games and using something he couldn't do before. So an amazing result, but also pretty scary technology that's going to hit us. Mary Beth, are you going to get one of these?
I was actually looking at getting an implanted Tesla chip so I didn't have to have my phone to get into my car. So I'm into biotech. Like, I find it quite fascinating. There's other things in that space where they're using Bluetooth receptors and helping individuals that are quadriplegic, or not paraplegic, I'm sorry, be able to walk and do those sorts of things. So I think there's amazing applicability. Who cares about AI? Let's be doing things that are really going to help humanity.
The medical tech, the biotech stuff is great, but I mean, let's face it, he's probably got his eye on mainstream adoption, right? So I'd imagine this guy wants to put a brain chip in everyone's brain. Is that fair to say?
And then control us. Have you been watching the three?
World.
Have you been watching the Three Body Problem, Tom?
No,
it's
pretty
good.
right.
Yes. All right. So my news, bit less exciting. But I thought interesting. So an organisation called Cybersecurity New South Wales has had a go at a lot of the councils who seem to be very focused on passing their security audits rather than actually improving their security.
Yep.
So I think that's quite a common practice. I don't want to pick on councils in New South Wales, but yeah, said they see security as a sort of a process of really just passing an audit, and they had a lot of high level of risk. So most of these councils lacked continuity plans, properly assigned responsibilities, or threat detection. So yeah, so it's talking about moving beyond a focus of maturity levels and compliance and actually looking at risk mitigation strategies. So I thought this was a good one because there are many organisations which all they're worried about is passing the audit rather than actually focusing on, continuing to improve their security posture.
That's right. It
they
can be
do that.
According to it. Go on, Mary-Beth. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say the reason they do that is because they don't get their insurance. If they don't pass the audit, that impacts their insurance. And coming out of gaming and wagering, same thing. It's not enough. The audit's just one thing. The audit's picking up things, but it's that continual improvement. It's that bad actors are still bad actors, and they're going to be doing whatever it is that they can do to get the information to be able to then get ransom from you or money from you. So just a tick box. Does it surprise you that it's council's tick box?
No.
Let's be honest here. So many firms get caught up in, we're going to do the audit. We're doing the accreditation. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And they forget to take a step back and say, hang on, is this really addressing the core risk here? Is it really doing that? So accreditation audits don't actually address the key issues. So just be pretty mindful of that. Which leads into my news, actually, which is I sort of reading about Living Off the Land, LOTL, which is my new acronym of the week.
Right.
It's a really good paper published by the Australian Cybersecurity Centre on their website, and I'll post a link for that. And it's a cyber hacking technique used to describe a range of activities that basically mimic existing activity on your network, living
Right.
off the land. So they basically, like a lot of those IT ops tools like remote access or monitoring or those kind of tools, they sort of inject their libraries and tools into those systems so that they monitor network, they mimic network of traffic, and then they strike. Well, they strike in sort of very small under the radar ways to basically detect what's going on, start to scrape passwords and whatnot, and then work out where your weaknesses are. So, living off the land is the thing you need to look out for at the moment. What can you do about what the hell do you do about that? Well, there's a whole bunch of things you can start doing. There's a lot of network performance monitoring and benchmarking that's really complicated and sophisticated. I suggest that's probably out of the reach of most people. But really, it's about understanding what your IT ops tools can do and how much permissions you actually give those tools. And do you just have it on for everyone all the time, or do you start to lock them down? So, something to start looking at, Josh.
Yeah, so there's definitely the visibility piece, and also moving to a zero trust architecture would prevent
That's a nice
these sorts of people getting in and staying in for, hundreds of days and doing what they want with your data. All right, my last piece of news, so it's actually a two articles in one. So it's about breaking NVIDIA's grip on AI. So NVIDIA are the 800-pound gorilla, so they have I think a 3 trillion, close to a 3 trillion market cap. And it's not only the hardware, but they've also got the software as well. So there's a sort of a two-pronged attack happening out there in the market. So there's a group, the first thing is around targeting software. So there's a conglomerate of a bunch of leading organizations, so Google, OpenAI, Intel, and they're creating a not-for-profit, an open source project called the UXL Foundation. So they're building a suite of software and tools that will support multiple types of AI accelerator chips. So the thing is NVIDIA build the software, but the software is built, funnily enough, to run only on their hardware.
Yep.
So, which is why they're growing so well. So these other organisations are coming in. They're creating an open source project that will aims to enable the code to run on any machine, regardless of what chip and what hardware powers it. So that it's about creating an open ecosystem. So Google is one of the founding members of it. They're also wanting to bring Amazon and Microsoft. Both of those companies have announced their own chips. Intel has something called One API, which is already usable, so it's already out there. So this is something that they're bringing to market, really quickly, and they're saying that over time they will eventually support NVIDIA hardware and code. But that's sort of one aspect of it. So you've got a group of the big competitors in the market trying to attack on the other side, and then what's happening on the hardware layer is that there are a lot of new startups in the AI chip market that are targeting very specific use cases.
Right.
So rather than trying to take on broad models, they're targeting specific use cases. So there's a few. There's one called Sentient, which is backed by Microsoft. They're making low power AI conductors for things like hearing aids and smart speakers.
Yeah.
There's another one called Tensorant, and so there's a whole bunch of them out there, and they're all getting really good, hundreds of millions in funding, and they're targeting very, very specific use cases. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves, and maybe moving forward. We've spoke about another podcast on that industry specific
Use cases.
LLMs or small, large learning models, small learning models, local learning models. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting how that sort of plays out. Mary-Beth, you got any thoughts on this space?
I always like to see the small players shaking stuff up.
Yes.
So although Google and Amazon, not small players, but when you've got that conglomerate or those monopolies, I don't like to see the monopolies. I like to see them get shaken up by new technology, and I think that's really where it comes down to. is really, you don't want to have that stronghold. Otherwise, then, you have that whole space where it's like, it's, everyone's using a PC and it's all, there was a time, remember, it was Microsoft and Apple, and now they're so very similar. And you can use anything now. We have to get to that point. You don't want someone having a stronghold, because then they start to dictate what it is that we do. And this is where things
like
need to be
Microsoft.
revolutionary.
Like Microsoft.
Well, yeah.
It's interesting that OpenAI is not open. It's not as open as they said they'd be, right? And it's quite interesting. They've got to now open it up for everyone else to start playing in that space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Josh, go on. Sorry.
No, I had nothing more. It's all right.
I was going to ask Josh. So, are you selling your Nvidia shares now, Josh?
No, my Nvidia shares are going up nicely. I'm going to hang on to them. I have a little tech portfolio of 3 or 4 Apple. It's nothing that exciting. Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and AMD, and it's a portfolio. We talk about it on the pod. It's going up. So again, I'm not a financial advisor, but anyway, just saying.
I bought Tesla shares. Let's not even go there. Every time Elon does something, I watch the shares just slowly drip.
You know what, Mary-Beth, I did the same thing, and they just dropped. So when they went back up, I sold them and broke even. So yeah, I did try.
I'm in for the long haul, man. It's like the long haul. Right. I'm assuming that he'll do something extraordinary at some point.
Well, like what Tom said earlier, if that goes anywhere, that'll be huge.
I'm not sure where biotech's going to go. But if it's if it comes down to being for the common good,
then
I think that there's something in that. We've got a lot of shares in like medical startups and things that like into cancer research and stuff, because I think that's as in the share space, that's where I want to put my investment. I want to see these companies come up with something amazing, because if they can. I was at an event last week, speaking at a Women for STEM event, and it was the Breast Cancer Council was speaking there, and about the amazing inroads they're making with biotech in that space and what they're doing in the biologics side of it. And that's the sort of thing I want to invest my money into, although I should have a bit of a tech portfolio, considering I'm in tech most of the time.
Yeah, that's why I thought it's taken me 20 years, but anyway, better late than never.
What is the old adage? When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago or today?
Yes.
Maybe the wealth acquisition is a little bit late in the game, though, man. I don't know.
So I think that concludes our where to invest section of the podcast.
Yes. All right. So Mary-Beth. So introduce Mary-Beth. So Mary-Beth is a pragmatic and seasoned technology leader with extensive experience in organisational transformation. She was formerly the global CIO for PointsBet, and she's now the CEO at Vic ICT for Women. Mary-Beth published her first book, In One Piece, a step-by-step guide to surviving change at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. Her second book, When Now Means Now, a handbook for career change, was launched in April 2023, and she's just released, or was about to release, her new book, Not Another Digital Transformation, the 10X Generation. So we're going to talk about that today. So welcome, Mary-Beth. Really excited to have you back. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Tom. I love the format of your podcast, because I listen to a lot of This Week in Tech, and so hearing it's nice to sort of get your little snippets as well, because they come from a very different space than what they do in that show. But thank you for having me back. I'm very excited about this book. This has been a passion piece that I wrote with my colleague and writing partner, Ady Kalra. We wrote this over the last 18 months, well, actually 2 years it took to write the book. And I'm really excited to talk about it because, as I said, I like things that are revolutionary and shake things up, and I'm hoping that this will shake things up. And Absolutely. At least before, when we first met, Tom, and I was talking about it, I said it's deliciously derisive, and I really think that it is. And the title in itself. So anyone that does digital transformation, maybe watch out a little bit.
Well, that's a good point about anyone does it. Because I think most people have experienced it in one way or another, right? They've either received it or been the receiving end, or they've been part of a project, or they've been part of some sort of management team that's been involved in one. So, but why did you write this book? So, why did you think, okay, this is what I want to do next?
Well, what I'd like to do firstly is preface this with, we are not talking about a digital uplift. We know that organisations, you need to uplift your technology. You cannot stay with the same technology. What we are talking about is that misnomer that the problem that your organisation faces in the market, it's losing market share. The departments don't talk to each other. That is not the fault of technology. And so what we're talking about when we talk about not another digital transformation is that idea of the problem stems from technology. It stems from that operational center. And if we fix that and we fix the ways of working in technology, then everything else will just follow, and you will be producing whatever you do in your organization. You will be achieving greater market share. All you need to do is fix the technology. That is what we are talking about. I just wanted to say that, not a technology uplift. We know you've got to do that. You have to take people on that journey, and that's a similar journey. However, what Ady and I were quite sick of, and having gone through at least 6 digital transformations in my time, and he the same, was that an organization will be floundering or will not be performing as it needs to. Their CEO, their C-suite will sit back and go, there's a problem here. They'll bring in consultants. The consultants will come in and they will have a look, and they will focus on the operations, as we call it, or that tech team or your technology space. And they'll say your problems stem from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. We're going to reorganize it, restructure it, put in new processes, and then all of your problems will be solved.
Mm.
So we all have gone through those. We've all been through your role is no longer required in some instances, or you'll be moved into this team to do this or do that. And then the consultants will walk away and say, yes, we fixed your IT department. Now everything will be perfect as you want it, Mr. CEO. And they walk away, and then within 3 to 6 months, everything's back to the way that it was, and the problem still existed because they never really focused on what the true problem was. And that is a lack of visibility across every single tier within your organization. And so we call that the wheel of chaos in the book, because we've been on it. I've been in an organization that went through a digital transformation, and then 6 months later, we're doing another digital transformation. It was just called something else, a new project name. And so Ady and I sat back and said, why is it that half the departments don't really understand what's happening in tech, and tech doesn't know what the other departments need? Why is that the case? And we were in a startup scale up at the time. So startup, scale up, SMB, enterprise. That's kind of how we've differentiated.
Yep.
And we've seen in that scale up space considerable bloat taking place with that whole idea of, well, I need a whole lot more people to make this work. So you get a manager leading another person, and these vertical hierarchies and silos that take place, and people just don't talk. And so we said, I think there has to be a better way. And so we decided to write what we think the better way is, and that is the 10X generation, that state, getting you to that state.
Yeah, brilliant. So with this book, though, you've taken like a unique approach, or a different approach than just another, here's 10 tips on what to do. You've decided to take a different approach. So do you want to walk us through the approach you've taken?
So anyone that's listening to this will probably have read The Phoenix Project.
Yes.
So I think we've all read that, and I remember reading that and getting the sweats and the chills and thinking, oh God, I've lived through this. And it talks a lot about DevOps, right? And then I think, if you extrapolate that out, DevSecOps, and then you start moving into FinOps and all those sorts of things. And it is a fantastic book, and I love it. So Ady and I we sat down and we had this concept. We said, how do we want to get this concept across to people? How do we want to make it engaging? And we decided we didn't want to create a narrative, a story. We didn't want to write a story because we really felt that Phoenix Project had done a brilliant job of that. And we thought, I don't think we can do that and do it well and do it justice. And we had at least 50 different scenarios we wanted to talk about, and you can't really do that in a narrative. We said, how are we going to do this? So what we decided to do was write it like a stage play. So it's scripts. We've written it in scripts. So if you read the script, and if you do download the first chapter, we give you a little snippet of what the scripts look like. But basically, they're different acts. There are 3 acts, and there are 12 scripts that sit in underneath, and each one is a vignette in itself, right. A small little story of its own. So there isn't a character that goes through all of them. There are different characters, different individuals, because each scenario is quite different. I would suggest that whoever reads this book will have experienced at least 60 to 70% of the scenarios that are in the book. Mm-hmm. These are real scenarios. The names were changed to protect the innocent. Is that how you say it? But they are scenarios that Ady and I have lived through in our 36 plus years of experience in this IT space.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. So when you read the book, it will start off as, the curtain raises, and if there was a song that we thought was pertinent to this, then we'll put the song in there. We've done all of those things because
nice.
It's just to really try to bring to life what happens in that boardroom, what happens in that meeting, what happens with that team. Yeah. And so we wanted to make it engaging. And then when you get to the end of the scenario, we talk about the problem and then how you would fix that in a 10x generation state or the 10x generation way.
Yeah, it's very engaging, and I've looked at read the first chapter, and that was, I'm sure, something that happens weekly and daily in a lot of organisations. So you mentioned before the sort of the 3 levels of the organisation. Do you want to maybe take us through what those levels are?
So we talk about the operational state, the tactical state, and the strategic state.
Yep.
But think of a babushka doll. You know the babushka dolls?
Yep.
You've got it in the next one. So within your operational state, you will have operational, tactical, and strategic. In your tactical, you'll again have operational, tactical, strategic. And then in your strategic, you'll have operational, tactical, strategic. So what we've done is we've wrapped a little bit of an analogy around that, which is kind of that idea of taking off in an aeroplane. So in your operational space, we call that like the tech hub. The operational space is the tech hub. So if you were to use our analogy, which is the first step is boarding. So when you've both traveled, you've traveled interstate or overseas. Most people here will have traveled. Yes. I remember when we put this in the book, our publishers said, "You're assuming that everyone's flown on a plane." I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to assume that at least 95% of the people that are going to read this have gotten on a plane. So when you're boarding, you've got your ground crew, right? They know exactly what needs to take place. Everything is happening. They are the hub. They will get your bags on board. You will know your itinerary based on what it is that you have booked. You will then get to the airport, and then you'll go through all of those things that happen on the ground. So if you think of it in a tech space, these are the people that make sure that everything is functioning and operating as you would expect it.
Right.
So that's your boarding, that operational tier. And then within that, each of those tiers knows exactly what it is that they need to do and has a strategic view of exactly what needs to happen to ensure that you can take off. Right? Every single person in that ground crew knows exactly what is necessary to get that plane in the air. Yeah?
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily happen in an office space, in a workplace, because you've already got silos within tech. So, your product dev team may not know exactly what's happening in your operations team, your infrastructure team, right? So you've already got silos created. But if you're catching a plane, they all know. They know that your bag needs to go onto this plane. They know that where this plane is going, so that the flight controllers know exactly who needs to take off when and where. It is absolutely cohesive, end to end, true visibility. Then you get to take off. So you get on the plane, you're seated in your seat. The people on that plane know exactly where you're going, know exactly what needs to happen, and so do you. You have full visibility. The pilot knows, to the air stewards, everyone that's on that plane knows, and so do you. You know where you're going. You know that when you take off, what that first ping means, it means you've hit 10,000 feet. You know when the seatbelt sign has come off that you are at 32,000, you're cruising, and you know where you're at. So that's your takeoff space. Again, they all know, and they're still in contact with ground crew, right? Then you get to that third space, which is what, so that second layer, tactical. So all your different departments, think of your different departments. So you've got your air hostesses, we don't call them that anymore, flight stewards, etc. So in-crew flight people, yes, excellent. They all know exactly what needs to take place. The pilot knows exactly what needs to take place. You as a passenger know exactly what's going to happen. It's all explained to you. You have that true visibility. Then we get to the strategic, and that for us is cruising altitude. That's where you want to be. You want to be at 32,000 feet. You want to be traveling at 500 kilometers an hour, whatever it is. You want to be at that speed because you know that that's going to get you to your destination.
Right.
Okay. Again, ground crew at every destination knows where you are. Flight crew know exactly what's going on. You know exactly what's going on, and you know that you're at cruising altitude. And that's where most organizations want to be. You want to be at cruising altitude. Everybody knows all the way through and has pure visibility, right? That's what we want. We don't get it because we have silos. HR doesn't talk to finance. Finance is out there going, well, I need a different system because operations, the operations team or the IT team are too slow in responding. So I'm going to get my own IT and I'm going to do this. And all of this sort of stuff happens because nobody is actually talking across the board. But if you were flying from one point to another, everybody knows where you're going. True visibility. Yeah.
Right.
Then imagine you don't want to go. I mean, yes, a line haul flight's great and you know where you're going, but who wants to fly 24 hours for their true line haul? Who wants to fly from Australia to London every week and do that in your organisation? Yes, you want to get to cruising altitude, but imagine if you did all of that, what it would be like to then push up into the stratosphere. And that's what going exponential is. So if you could emulate that true visibility, everybody knowing exactly where everyone is going, all talking, all working cohesively together, imagine what you could do as an organisation. And that's what the 10X Generation State is. That's the analogy we've used.
Right. No, it's excellent. And so from what I have read, so it's really bringing a startup type model into, infusing that into your organisation. Is that what you're espousing here?
It's almost that, yeah. It's almost saying, so if you think of what a startup looks like, except around the startup space, every person does a little bit of something.
Yeah.
What you get, though, in a startup is everyone is just as passionate about the direction with which you're traveling. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Everybody has visibility. Everybody knows what everyone else is working toward. There's less of this, this is my little segment. I own this. I'm the empire builder here. Less of that and more about, hey, this is the problem I'm facing. How can others help me? And how do we all work together to actually achieve what the organization wants? Now, this is quite revolutionary. There are sort of concepts that we've leaned slightly on, which are around the team of teams model. But again, when you think about DevOps, Agile, team of teams, you're only talking about tech. You're only talking about tech. We're saying everybody, all departments, all layers work together cohesively and have visibility.
It sounds
accountability. It's utopian, isn't it? It's great.
That was the word I was thinking. Was utopia. I mean, if you're obviously a new organisation or a smaller organisation, this would be easier theoretically easier, but a large organisation, whatever, even if we're talking 100, 200 users plus, it sounds impossible almost. Like how are you? I'm sure you're giving ideas in the book as to how. So please, it sounds like a massive change management
It would
process
be.
and a
It,
re-education.
it is all of that. It is top down, bottom up. It is everything and all of that. But it's a courageous move, is what it is, and it is entirely possible. It's entirely possible if you are prepared to put in the work. It starts off with focusing on not just focusing on operations, but focusing across all the tiers,
Right.
and then sitting back and taking your leadership, all your levels of leadership through, as well as the people in underneath. So actually talking them through, this is the concepts, this is what it looks like. How would you implement this? How do you think this will work in our organization? And taking everybody on that journey. And it would be, and I'm speaking over, I'm going to the House of PMO have an event in the UK, and they're flying me over to talk about the book there, because they are really keen to understand it, because that's where you'll get a lot of that change happening. They will be the ones that will be implementing that change. But yeah, it is absolutely revolutionary, and you need to be a really enlightened C-suiter to sit back and go, yeah, this is entirely possible. We've got 4 key elements. We talk about those elements. I don't want to give the baby away with the bathwater, because I really want people to buy the book, of course. But we talk about all the elements, and then and this is really it's the first in what we perceive to be a group of books, and then the next book will come out, which will talk about each of the different layers, and we'll really drill down into them. This really is to sort of talk about, okay, here are the problems that we see in the scenarios, and this is how we think they would be fixed.
Yeah. So you mentioned one of the things so I'm not giving away everything. It's what you've given away. So it's really the broader layers. So it's not just architecture and IT. It's bringing in the voice of the customer, the C-suite, finance, customer service. So you're bringing HR. So you bring really engaging the whole organisation in a change, and then top down, bottom up, which seems common sense, but it's not. As I say, common sense is not common. It just never seems to happen.
No, because there are egos. Park your ego to the side, right? What's best for the organisation and the individuals. So Ady and I are both people-centric leaders. So for us, it's about the people, because the people are going to make this happen. They will make it happen, and they'll make it fail. Simple as that. Yep. So you've got to take them on that journey.
I was going to say for our audience, so we're tech leaders, right? So often dealing with all the other C-suites and senior managers and managers, and as tech people, sometimes I think some of our people we talk to go, look, I'm in tech, I love tech, that's what I'm about. But this other stuff just confuses me or upsets me or frustrates the hell out of me. What role do you think the tech people, tech leaders have to play in this particular space?
What is the one thing that really upsets you as a tech leader? What's the one thing? I know what really upsets me as a tech leader. The one thing that really upsets me as a tech leader...
The answer you're fishing for is people, right? But this doesn't upset me.
No. Actually, that's not what upsets me at all. Love people, because people are at the centre for me. I love being a management contributor. I don't function as an individual contributor. What I dislike the most is when... I value delivery. I like to deliver. I like to add value to an organisation. Yep. What I dislike the most is when I have no visibility to what HR need. I have no visibility to what finance need. What is the problem you're trying to solve? Take me with you. I want to help you, but they don't, because what they perceive, and it may not actually be perception, it might be real as well, is that they're not getting what they need from IT.
So
they are going and they're creating their own IT over in their function, and then they'll come back and say, hey, CIO, Ms. CIO, let's say that, I've got this technology that I've implemented over here. You now need to support it. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, but that doesn't work at that. That doesn't work in our real estate, in our ecosystem. It doesn't work in our tech stack. You've gone and done this, and it's not just that. We actually, when we were writing the book, we had reviewers. So part of, and this is the first time I've worked with a professional publisher, and our publishers in the UK. And part of this was write the book, and then you need to send this out and have this reviewed by 10 people across the globe. And so we had a couple of tech leaders and tech individuals review, but we had HR, we had marketing. We went to different functional leaders to review the book to make sure it's not so technical that you don't understand it if you've not worked in the tech space, but also so that they could say to us, actually, this is how this problem really feels to us. Because what we wanted to have was that, what does it feel like if you are a marketing leader or you are an HR leader? What problem do you see? Because you're seeing it from your perspective. We didn't want to write this from a tech perspective. We wanted to write this from an organisational perspective. And so that's what we did with the book. But the biggest problem I faced in IT is that being seen as a service provider within the organisation. You're not seen as a partner.
Yeah.
You're seen as, and you're always the problem child.
Yes.
Yeah, and that we're saying we need to stop that, because when you see IT as that and that operational piece as just that,
doesn't work.
Then we can no longer be of support or assistance to you. We can no longer help you. But imagine what it would be like if, instead of having this, you've got this idea of, I'm an HR business partner, so I sit in IT. What if you had that, flip that advocacy around? You had the IT advocate in the business and the business advocate in IT. What if you just do that? And what if you were to start thinking of this as more as a micro system in itself, and that you had representation across every department? Everybody knows what everyone needs in that space. And you know what? It works. Team of teams works. That model works in IT. What if you just exploded that out?
Yeah, right. Yep.
Imagine what that would be like. Imagine, and I know it sounds utopian, but I'm going to throw the gauntlet down. Here's the challenge. If you are a CEO and you really want significant change and are prepared to do the work, read the book and then talk to me. Say to me, how do I actually do this? Because we will give you the tools, but we can't give you everything. We can't make this book 600 pages. You're never going to read it. But we give you enough to actually start the conversation and to actually start thinking differently. And that's all we're asking for. It takes one person to make a movement, right? So just have the courage. And if you are down at the, if you're a junior person and you read this book and you go, oh my God, this is amazing, give it to your leader. Get your leader to read it. Get them to buy a copy. Yeah, but read it, have a look, because we think that there's something here. We think that, we know it's revolutionary. We know that it is scary. Change is scary. But you know what? We've just lived through 2 years of a global pandemic, and that couldn't have gotten scarier than that. So how scary could this be?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Fantastic. Well, Mary-Beth, I think that was excellent. Don't you, Tom? That was inspiring, inspiring stuff. So no excuses for any of us, Mary-Beth, is what you're saying. And really, wherever we're at, there's something we can do. Basically, whether we're in a small organisation, a startup, enterprise, there's something that you can do in every role. We need to take ownership of it. So, and Mary-Beth, can we just ask, when is it out yet, or where can people buy it, or what's happening there?
Mid-April. We have been assured by our publisher that it will be available on all online mechanisms. We will. I am looking to do a launch over here in Melbourne, so I will let you know when that is. Still looking for launch partners online. So if you want to be a launch partner, you can sign up. And all that really entails, there's lots of little rewards. Obviously, if you're a launch partner, buy the book, read it, do a review, and then there's a whole lot of things that you get as a launch partner. But if you want to just read the first chapter, you can go to our website. I think you've got the details, Tom, Josh, if you wouldn't mind popping those up. Sign up for the mailing list. We promise, we hate spam as much as everybody else. We promise not to spam you, but to give you just snippets and information of when launches are and when you can participate more. My colleague Ady is in the US, so if this podcast goes global, which
it is global,
then he is in the US, and so look out for some things that he will be doing over there. we possibly will be going to India towards the end of the year. I will be in the UK in June. So we're doing launches across the globe. But we're very, very passionate about this. We really are.
Great.
And I think that we are throwing the gauntlet down. We really are. And for those of you that are in the digital transformation space, watch out.
Yes, you're coming for them. So for people, it's www.quantumtransformation.com.au/10. That's 10XGEN. So www.quantumtransformation.com.au/10XGEN. That's N for Nelly. Well, thanks so much again, Mary-Beth, for coming back. We'll have to obviously get you back again, and for your wonderful work you're doing at Vic ICT for Women. It's, pleasure to be part of, and much respect for what you're doing. Tom, as always,
your speaking gig there was amazing, and we are so privileged to have Empyrean as part of Vic ICT and to support us. Thank you very much for that.
No, thank you, Mary-Beth. It was great to be part of. And Tom, as always, good to see you. Wish everyone a happy Easter. So everyone have a nice long Easter weekend. I think we're all a bit tired and need a good break. And thanks to you all out there for listening. Subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thanks, everyone.